if you are asking someone for money for a project, will it help them grow their brand? Okay. Or two, what they're looking for is a return of their money.
This is episode 59 of the Arts Academy podcast, How to Be an Executive Producer, hosted by Victor Varnado and Roxxy Haze.
We are going to talk about on this episode about how to executive produce. Now, the way that we got this episode is that someone in our Facebook group, they asked us about executive producing. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so they asked about executive producing. By the way, if you're interested, you can become part of our Facebook group or anything. All you got to do is dip in there. You can ask questions. We'll do episodes about whatever you want to talk about, and we'll try to let you know when that episode is coming up live, because when we do the live stream, you can actually ask questions while you're on the live stream, blah, 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 and all that, right?
And here is the link. It's facebook.com/groups/Arts Academy students. So join.
Yeah, join that group and you can ask any questions. Also, you get the free courses that we teach. We'll teach free webinars. Most recently, we had a free webinar on how to make a no-budget feature film. So check out how to make no-budget feature film. It's fun. And actually, anybody can do it as long as you're not like a total ding-dong. All right, now... So I know some people out there are total ding dong, so I wanted to ward you off just in case you were thinking about trying it. Now, let's talk about executive producing. Now, most people associate executive producing with money. Most people associate executive producing with like having a big pile of money and then making a show. Is that how you? Is that what you think about, Roxy, for executive producing?
That's what I thought.
Oh, yeah?
It's not. Then I'll just throw the bread and then be like, I put my name on the credits. That's what I thought it was.
Well, that is a kind of executive producing. And if we were just going to talk about that kind of executive producing where you just like write a giant check and they put your name on it, you don't need, there's no need to like have a class about that. If you are super rich and you want to put your name on something, just write a check. And I mean, well, there is something to talk about, but we'll talk about that when we talk about the other kind of executive producing, okay? Because the other kind of executive producing is finding money, okay? Right now, I have been executive producer on projects where I have brought money to the project where I I paid for it. But I've also executive produced on projects where I find money, which is, and you get your being an executive producer in the credits is just as important as the guy who wrote the check. It's exactly as important, okay, if not more, because if you're the executive producer who finds money, then you are also the usually the person whose idea it was to get that party started in the first place. So when I think about executive producing, I think about it actually more about having an idea about what something should be. Like, for instance, I just executive produced this special, which is a comedy charity special. It has like Roy Wood Jr.'s in it, the Lucas brothers. And I executive produced that, and that was a thing where it was mostly an idea first, but then I had to like figure out a way with like my small team of like making it happen. And so now it's in post-production, and we're like talking to different networks for it to go on, which is really cool. It's a lot of fun. But that I'm an executive producer on that, and it's more about the fact that of having the idea and then finding money. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. So if you want to find money for a project, okay, there are two things that people who will give you money are looking for. Okay. And this is usually I'm referring to individuals or companies. Okay, there's two things that they're looking for, or at least one of these two things. Sometimes both. Okay, one, and actually it probably is ultimately both for companies. But number one, they are looking to grow their brand. Okay, so if you are asking someone for money for a project, will it help them grow their brand? Okay. Or two, what they're looking for is a return of their money. All right. So those are the two things you have to consider when you're looking for money for your project. And we're going to delve in a little bit about each of those. I would like to make a disclaimer, if you wouldn't mind, Roxy. You would mind?
No, I meant like do it.
Okay, I'm gonna make a disclaimer. Here it is. I was just kidding. I knew what you meant. I was just messing with you. Anyway,
I'm trying.
the disclaimer is that this is the way I have gotten money for projects, and not necessarily the only way you can get money for projects. Okay, but this is how I've gotten money for projects. Okay, either you grow someone's brand, or you show them how you're going to give them their money back. So when you're working with a network or something, like say you're trying to go to Netflix, all right? What you're doing is you're growing their brand, okay? So like if you go to Netflix and you give them a TV show or a special or some idea that you're trying to sell them, it's gonna grow their brand, which will in turn give them their money back. Okay, so when you're trying to go to somebody and get money from, like if it's a network, think about that. Think about why networks don't want your show. Okay, when you go to a network, if it doesn't grow, if it isn't more of what they're trying to do, which is trying to like be the leader in innovative streaming entertainment, to have outside of the box hits, plus nostalgic versions of things that you've experienced in the past, like that's what Netflix is doing. That's happening right now with Netflix. Okay, and you are trying to pitch them something that doesn't fit into any of those categories, they're not going to buy your show. Okay. Number two, if you are not a person who is proven to succeed, like if they can't trust that you can actually make something from beginning to end, they're not going to buy your show. And so that's why a lot of times when you go to a network, if they really, really love your idea, they might want to pair you up with a production company who has delivered shows before. Because obviously, so when they try to pair you, it's not because they don't trust you. It's because they have to be relatively sure that the production is going to be finished to a professional standard, which they enjoy in the rest of their work. They have to be sure of that. And why do they have to be sure? And they can't just trust you because you're the smartest, most trustworthy person. Why they can't trust you? Because the person who is saying yes to you, it's not their money. It's not their money. The person who works at Netflix and is like, yes, I'll do it, even if it's the head of Netflix, it's not their money. The head of Netflix it's not their money. It's Netflix's money. They're trying to perform for this brand and this corporation. So they are going to want something that grows their brand. Okay?
That makes sense.
Sometimes that's true for people too. Like there are people who are called martini investors. Like say someone is a dentist and they've got a lot of money and they would love to have their name on a horror film. Sometimes those people aren't even as concerned about making their money back. Like it might be worth $50,000 to them to have their name on a horror film if they know, especially if they know for sure the horror film is going to be made. Like there's people who just have that excess cash and love to be part of projects like that. There are people out there like that, and I've met a few, and they're there. Okay, and then, but more often when you're dealing with an individual, they're also going to want to know that they're going to get a return on their money. Okay, the question is, how do people get a return on their money? Well, a couple of ways. If they're a network or you're approaching a network or a corporation, they get a return on their money when you grow their brand. Or if yeah, exactly. I'm sorry. I was going to say, or maybe they have hired you to make a commercial, in which case it's different. But we're talking about getting money for your own ideas. We're not talking about making commercials for people. Okay, so but number two, if you can't grow their brand, say if it's an individual investor and you're trying to get them to invest in your project, you have to show them a roadmap as to how their investment is going to make money. Okay, you have to show them a roadmap. Now, like for instance, when I started this school, New York Arts Academy, I had a couple of friends, and it wasn't like a huge amount of money, but they invested some money so that I could make some demo videos so I could get an idea of what this school is going to be like. And although the school hasn't made like a ton of money yet, it has made some money, but it hasn't made a ton of money. But although the school hasn't made a ton of money yet, it's like building and it's about to make a lot more money. So those people who invested in my school idea, like they're going to be able to start like earning dividends back on their investment. And that means that when I first approached them, I told them how the school works. I told them, this is what I'm planning on doing. This is where I'm going to have classes available. I've researched this, and this. This is how much money classes generally make. So I'm setting the bar low. So like with your investment of X amount of dollars, we know for a fact that over like a year or two, it'll at least make that or more. And so you'll at least get that back. So I asked for money that was similar to money that I knew I could bring in with the work that I was doing on that project. If it's a movie, if it's not something like a school, or if it's a movie, if it's a entertainment project, they still want to see a roadmap if they're trying to invest in you and your idea specifically. Sometimes things will come with that. For instance, like if you approach a movie studio that has a lot of money and they look at your idea and they see, oh, this is a great idea, and then the movie studio is going to give you money to make that movie, because then they know how to distribute it or how it will be distributed, and they know where they're going to get their money back if they give you X amount of budget, because they look at your movie and they're like, oh, then okay, this movie, it's a horror movie. That's the genre that always makes money. That's worth X amount of dollars. Because this director is a little bit hot, that's worth X amount of dollars. This person's going to star in it. Oh, that's worth X amount of dollars to us. So if you can actually deliver your movie, it's a good idea that they like, and then you have everything else in place, then you can get someone to give you money to make a movie. Or if it's a good idea, you'll get them to option your idea so that they can try to get all the people to put the package together and then make that movie. And then if the movie is a go, you get paid again. Oh yeah, but optioning an idea is the more it's the more frequent occurrence of a meeting than having a straight up sale. So usually they'll want the ability to take your idea to everyone and say, hey, we have this really cool idea. It's exclusive to us. If we can get this going, will you jump in? Will you add bread to the stone soup? Yeah, so they go try and make stone soup with your idea. when they want to option your idea. And so that's a in fact recently one of the projects that I made started out as an option. Bring Back Laughs started out as an option. So there you go. So I think that we still have more time to talk. Well, since we have a few more minutes to talk, but I've talked about the most that I wanted to talk about executive producing. If you have questions out there, if you're watching live and you have questions, then why don't you throw some questions in the chat, and then I will answer them as best I can. The last two things I executive produced were a comedy special called Bring Back Laughs. I was not the only executive producer on that. There were 4 of us. And then I also executive produced a game show, a comedy game show for Facebook Watch. And that was with Penguin Random House. And I'm one of 3 executive producers on that. It's called The Great Fantasy Debate. You can actually look up the Great Fantasy Debate trailer right now, and it'll pop right up.
Let me get the link.
Oh, yeah, the Great Fantasy Debate trailer. It is basically people arguing over nerdy topics, like debating over whether it's better to be part of the Empire or the Republic. Things like that. Or the Rebellion, sorry. The Empire or the Rebellion. The Empire and the Republic are basically the same thing.
Nerd.
Whoa. Whoa. What was that about? I don't even know what I did to deserve that. All right. So looks like there are no real questions, but let me just reiterate what I was talking about executive producing. Number one, you can be the guy with the money, or you can be the guy who finds the money. Sometimes you can be both. Sometimes you can have money and also find more money. And then are you just what are you doing?
I'm
Roxxy?
doing pantomiming for what you're saying. I want to add value to this episode because I didn't know anything, so I wanted to do what I could do to make this my help.
Well, you know some things. I mean, you have to deal with your own productivity issues. I mean, so you know some stuff. Like I know you have ways of dealing with your own productivity issues. And you've executive produced stuff, whether you know it or not. Because sometimes being an executive producer is just thinking of the idea, figuring it out, and getting people that you can to work on stuff with you.
I have done that. Look at me.
Yeah, you've definitely
not even knowing my worth. I'm out here in these streets.
In the streets, not knowing your worth. Great.
It sounded so much worse than I wanted it to. Step one.
And then if you're the guy who has the money or the guy who gets the money, and then also you either want to grow the brand of the person that is giving you the money, or give them a return on their money, and show them how that's going to happen. I
have a question.
Yes, go right ahead.
Okay, Roxxy. So when you're giving them a return, how do you figure out what their return is going to be, like their percentage? Is it usually like, I know it's their money plus some. How do you determine what the plus sum is?
Well, at this point I talk to people who've made similar deals, and that's the way I learn now. But I mean, it depends. Like most people would love a return on their money that is at least 10%. 10% is the number where everybody can be like, oh, that's a good return. Okay. That's just a place to start.
Okay.
But
and then you negotiate from there.
But one thing to always be wary of is depending on how much money people are putting in, their return should have a limit. Okay? Meaning, if someone gives you, let me break it down really quick. Like if someone gives you $1,000 to do something, and I know that like when you're working on bigger deals, it's not $1,000. It's like, $500,000. Okay, but even on the small side, you can still do this for a small project. So if someone gives you $1,000 and then you say within like 1 year, they're going to get a return of $1,000 plus 10% of whatever this thing makes, or $1,000. They're probably going to get their $1,100 back. That's more like a loan, but an investment would mean that they are probably going to get some sort of equity in what their project is. But you can also give them a piece of what the project's earnings are, which is limited, because you don't want necessarily for someone to give you a small amount of money and then to earn a potential of a percentage of something forever.
Gotcha.
All right. Yeah. I mean, you can do that, but you don't want to. Like, you don't want people giving you a small amount of money and then basically if that thing that you do blows up and becomes a multi-million-dollar project, then they for $1,000 they are going to get millions for the rest of their life. Like,
gotcha. Yeah,
you don't want to do
set
that
them up with something that they didn't even really put that much in.
I mean, you can't, if you do make the deal, you can do that, but I'm just saying that's a potential of you making deals willy-nilly unchecked. And it's not that it's bad. Like, they'll be happy if they make $10,000 just because your thing goes on to make millions. Like, their investment, if the rules are set forth ahead of time, you don't want to be unfair to yourself too, though. You don't want to get in the habit. And I used to do this all the time. I used to give away so much equity on projects, but I learned from a couple of mistakes that there's different ways I should deal with things, and so try to put a limitation on small investments, on what they can earn back from you.
That makes sense.
So it could be like they get 10% of the profit until they're paid back 200% of their investment, and then from then on out, their percentage drops or something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, it wasn't me who thought of that. Somebody else thought of that, and I'm just repeating it.
Take the compliment.
I will try to take the compliment for other people's stuff more often. All right. Thank you, everybody, for checking us out at Arts Academy Podcast. You can look us up at artsacademypodcast.com and Alt Arts Academy on all social media.
Yeah.
We do this live every Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, and every 2 weeks we do a free class. The most recent free class was about how to make a no-budget feature film. What will the next one be about? We don't know, because we sometimes figure it out last minute. All right, let me do the end of the show button. And here we go.
Bye.